Hello, welcome back to the channel. So it's a cloudy and bit of a rainy day here, and thought it might be a good day to do a veg garden tour, seeing as I can't do much else without getting muddy and wet. But let me show you what's going on in the veg garden. All right, so I think we'll start with the in-ground beds, and then we'll do the raised beds maybe, and then moved out towards the greenhouse. But however this goes, here we are. If you're new to the channel, welcome. My name's Jason. I have a garden here in growing zone 8A, Eastern North Carolina, and it's growing. I'm on an 1.5 acre piece of property, and my intention, my goal is to garden the whole thing, build the whole thing up, fill it with all sorts of trees and flowers and vegetables and yada, 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 yada. If I can grow it, I want to grow it. That being said, here we are in the veg garden, which is actually 40 feet by 80 feet. And if you're confused or want to see more of the layout of the garden itself, you can go over to growinggreenfinger.com. Check out the garden page where I give a whole breakdown as to the garden, who, what, when, where, why, and how. Any other questions, please feel free to leave those comments below. But here we are with the in-ground section, which is new this year. I have had in-ground beds before. This year I decided to expand and improve that for various reasons. So what I did was I essentially made a bed that is 40 by 14, roughly. The bed is actually 14 feet deep, and what I do is a straight line made with some paving stones here. And this way it just makes it easier to mow and weed whack right along the edge. It also gives a defined border to the space. Now, I prefer raised beds for numerous reasons. That being said, some vegetables and certain crops are difficult to grow in raised beds, such as corn, pumpkins, melons, things like that. So I do have this space here. Also sunflowers. Some sunflowers can get 12 to 15 feet high, and if your bed is already 30 inches off the ground, that's really up there. So saving in-ground bed space for things like that is something that I think is just a practical part of gardening, unless you want to give those things up. And at this point, I don't want to give up growing sunflowers and all those other things just to have the convenience of a raised bed. So here we are with the in-ground beds. And starting off over here, I have some daylilies that I'm growing at one end. And the reason being is because I'm in deer country, and the deers love daylilies. It's like a fresh salad to them or something. They also love to eat hostas and roses and a bunch of other things that I do to grow. So I thought I would take some of the daylilies out of one of my beds along the front of the house and divide them up, because they needed to be divided. I actually have more that need to be pulled out and divided this year. Pulled them out, divided them, and then I planted them out over here behind the fence, so hopefully keeps the deer away from the daylilies. In the corner, I have Midnight Rouge sunflower, and they seem a little stunted this year. The sunflowers aren't growing great for me, and that might be because we've had a wet spring. So there's been a lot of cloudy days, and we've also, now we're dealing with the Canadian smoke. Behind that, I have comfrey, which I bought years ago because I've seen the many purposes of it. Apparently it's a plant that is grown commonly over in the UK. In front of that over here, I have a couple of different types of peppers. I've never grown peppers before. It was an experiment for me to grow peppers this year, and I wanted to try numerous different ways or methods of growing peppers. And so far, I'm not having much luck. I have a couple of big red peppers which are pushing up, and it looks like I have at least one AJI Rico F1 pepper. I don't know. It seems to be trying to push its way up and do its thing. We'll have to see. Hopefully we get many more sunny days, and then the hot weather, of course, is coming because I do live in the South. So we'll have to wait and see. So if you follow along with the channel for some time, again, you've seen me develop these beds as NoDig. So essentially that means I put cardboard right on top of the existing ground, and on top of that I piled wood chips and compost. Now, I did my pathways and wood chips simply because I had a ton. You don't need to do wood chips as a base. I, again, just did it because I have a ton and I need to use them up. Here, I used them just as pathways and helped differentiate the different beds where I wanted to grow things. Back here, I decided to do some more flowers. Over here, I have a milkweed, And then over here, something I got recently, and I've never grown before, which is Trellis Blazing Star. They're coming up quite nicely. Apparently they enjoy the slightly cooler weather we've been having and the dampness. Maybe they'll start coming to life more once the sun comes out, but they're doing great right now. In this section right here, I have Connecticut Field Pumpkin, an Elephant Dill, and I have a Zinnia up front. Nothing has sprouted as of the moment. I'm hoping that I do start seeing stuff sprout soon. The Connecticut Field Pumpkin seeds are a couple of years old, so if I don't see any action from them, they've almost been in the ground almost 2 weeks now. I'll give them a little bit more time. If I don't see anything coming up, then I'll either see if I have another pumpkin seed that's still viable, or I'll turn around and just buy more. When we do a summer tour of the veg garden, there'll probably, or hopefully, will be vines everywhere that I'll be tripping over. Along the back next to the Trellis Blazing Star, I have Black Russian Sunflower. Again, these seedlings seem to be a little on the weak side. I would expect them to be a little further along, but it might have been, again, because of the lack of sun that we've had. Again, we've had quite a few cloudy days. The other concern of mine is that I use cheap compost that I picked up from Lowe's, and I'm concerned that there's the weed killer that's inside the compost. But we'll see. Hopefully these Black Russians get to 10 to 15 feet tall like they're supposed to, and they just become an awesome backdrop here to the veg garden. In front of me, I'm doing something I've never done before, which is growing several different types of squashes. My wife had purchased these seeds last year and didn't really get to use them, so this year I've dropped in. We have lemon squash, lemon cuke, and then spaghetti squash. Again, I've never grown these things before, so this is a new thing for me. And I've had these trellises, which I purchased years ago off of Gardener Supply. And so I figured, you know what? Instead of just, putting them back on the fence or letting them run all over the place on the ground, I'll try to train them up on these trellises and see what happens. Hopefully when we do our summer tour, these trellises are lousy with vines and hopefully fruit. Okay, in the next section here, I have more zinnias growing up the front. I have a orange zinnia growing up. I believe it's supposed to be a bit of a dwarf, so it's only going to get like 2 foot tall. We will wait and see on that. Back in the rest of the bed is rattlesnake watermelon, and I've done this variety before, and it throws vines everywhere, which is great and crazy. And right now I've got 5 seeds that have popped up. I'm going to give it another week or so because I don't need 5 vines running everywhere. But what I will do is thin this out probably to about 2, but I want to see how the watermelon grows. In the back section along the fence, I have nothing yet. I will probably wind up planting up more sunflower, so I almost have a continuous production of sunflowers throughout this summer, hopefully. So as the Black Russians hopefully will be fading back in another month and a half or so, whatever variety I plant next to them is coming up and then will basically take its place. Behind me in the corner over here, I have Pike's Peak. That variety is supposed to get to like 15 feet tall. They're not looking like much right now. And again, it could be a combination of things. It could be some of the weed killer. It could be, again, the lack of sun, the cooler temperatures, not sure. But hopefully they start really taking off in the next few weeks. And we will see. Hopefully they get to 15 foot tall. I think that'd be pretty freaking awesome. So again, when I do my summer tour, we'll see all of that. Alrighty, now we're down towards the end. In the front of this bed along the pavers here, I have a couple of pots of peppers. Again, experimenting with the peppers and I'll try to grow some in pots, I'll grow some in ground. I have some in the greenhouse, we'll touch on that when I get there. But what performs better, where, when, why? I have seen some English gardeners turn around and grow peppers in pots, and apparently if the pot is constrained or if the plant is constrained, it produces great peppers. I don't know. So, they get certain results there, but they're in a completely different environment than what I am here in Eastern North Carolina. Again, experiment, and I think that's one of the awesome things about gardening is that you can experiment, you should experiment, and just have fun trying new things. Right in front of me here is something new to me. I'm growing a heat-resistant lettuce. So that is coming in now. It doesn't look all that bad so far. Doesn't look like all the seed is germinated, but you know what? That's fine. And then in front of, right in front of me here, I have beets. I've never grown beets before. So again, something fun and exciting. Now, both these crops I could grow in raised beds, but this is fun playtime for me. And I don't want to take away bed space from something that's going to be more of a production crop, as it were. Beans are more production crop, cucumbers, those kind of things. So I can keep those over there and then have fun playtime over here and see what works. Right now the lettuce is looking good, pretty good. I believe, even though it's some sort of, I think it's called a heat blend or something, the lettuce, if I'm not mistaken, it's from Johnny Seeds. And I don't know, I think it's a mixture of different types of lettuce, but if I'm not mistaken, they're all cut and come again, which means I can just pick off the leaves as needed. And I did that yesterday with a few small leaves, and they were quite yummy. The beets, I have no idea how they're gonna perform, but so far they're looking okay. They have a little bit of bug damage on them, but nothing too traumatic. And again, these just seem to be growing, which is great. As you can see behind me, I have corn. This is Silver Queen, I believe, and it's growing pretty well. I have spots on either end which are shorter than what I have here in the center, which is a little odd, but this is also an experiment for this year. Can I grow corn to some modicum of success? I've tried this before. The first year I was down here, I tried, and well, I left the corn too long on the, I discovered two things. One is raccoons like corn and they will tear the corn off of the stalks. And two, I left the corn too long on the stalks and it got moldy and was just throw away. It's growing. And right now I actually have some flowers starting to come up, which is really interesting. I don't know, probably another 2 to 3 weeks, and then it'll start doing its thing. And then maybe another, well, you know, I think the old adage or the old saying is knee high by 4th of July, you're okay. And we're above that. So, so I think we're going to have quite a bit of success here. All along the edges, and I'll show you that close up in a minute, I have potatoes growing in bags. Now I also have some potatoes growing in a raised bed, and we'll look at that in a bit. But I have potatoes growing in bags all along the side and the back here, and they're ready to harvest. So let me pull you guys over here and we'll take a look at that. Right here, it may not be on screen, but is the gate to the rose garden, because that's what's on the other side of the fence here. And yes, there's no gate there, but next to it, I have a golden euonymus. And I had this in the ground originally, but apparently deer like this more than they like the lilies. So this plant will stay here, and it does grow 10 to 15 feet tall, I believe, but I will keep it trimmed down probably to 3 to 4 feet and make it live its best life it can in this pot over the years. So here all along, you can see all my potatoes. And I have a couple of different varieties. I have B-I-N-T-J-E. I don't know how you pronounce that. Bins. I have no idea how you pronounce that. I have Nicola. I have German Butterballs, and I believe I have Yukon Gold. And you can probably tell that they're all pretty much getting ready. They're all, I think I can start harvesting, because all the leaves are starting to yellow. They're losing a lot of their lower leaves, which is something that happens when the plant's about ready to go. And yeah, I should be having a nice harvest. If you'd like to see me harvest my potatoes and see what kind of results I get, please leave those comments below, and I'll do a separate video if you guys want to see that. Otherwise, I'll just go ahead and harvest my potatoes and maybe throw some pictures up on Instagram. But if you want to see me harvest my potatoes and see what kind of results I get, again, leave those comments below and I will do said video. And right here on the corner, and I have one on the opposing corner too, I have a Meyer lemon tree. This one is producing fruit, which is pretty awesome. What do I have? 1, 2, 3, 4. I have 4 lemons so far. I don't know what will come to fruition, but it's done this, which is pretty awesome. Let's look at the potting tables, because I still have quite a bit of stuff on the potting table. Now I have 2 tables here. The bigger one here in the back is my potting table. This smaller one is just a folding table, one of those plastic jobbies you pick up at any big box store. And it is provided a space to overflow and get stuff out of the greenhouse. The reason the guy want to get stuff out of the greenhouse is growing zone 8A, and normally this time of year it's about 90 degrees. So the greenhouse, even with shade cloth, is probably about 100 plus. So I've moved the stuff out of the greenhouse and I've put it here, and as time is provided and as whatever projects I'm doing that day, I take stuff and I plant it out. I have numerous items here that I really need to start getting into the ground. I have a Mary Poppins Winterberry I want to get in the ground. What is this over here? Crimson Night Weigelia. They'll both go out in the orchard along the border between me and the neighboring property. I recently picked up on a great sale some irises. I need to get these planted out. I have more peppers, more pepper plants that need to get planted out. I have left over, I believe these are petunias here at the end. I have various herbs, which I think I found a recipient for, some oregano and parsley and some basil. I'm growing evening scented primrose. It's a plant I've never grown before. It seems very interesting, and I'll probably put some in the rose garden and some are going to go out along the driveway garden there in the main flower garden. I have a few dahlias here, which are, they're growing in their pots, they're doing very well, but they need to get out into the dahlia garden, and I should be planting them out sooner than later. I have a couple of seed trays with, again, more primrose, and I'm growing my own pampas grass because I can go down to my local nursery and I can pick up a gallon-sized pampas grass there, but you know, that's $20 or $30 versus me spending maybe $3 for a packet of seeds. Let me show you up close here. And then I can prick these out. Yes, I may have to wait a couple of years before they're that gallon size, but I haven't decided where I want to put them yet. So I can, again, up pot them from this tray into small pots, and then in a couple of years or a year's time, up pot them from small pots into bigger pots. And then hopefully by then I know where I'm going to plant them and I stick them someplace. Back over here, I have 4 rose cuttings that I took that are doing quite well. And I already have a home for one of these. Recipient just has to come get them. And I have 3 others, which I'm going to go put over in the rose garden. I have a pot of succulents, and then and then the rest of the bed here, or the rest of the table here, really is filled out with a lot of cuttings that I've taken of boxwoods and privets. My golden ticket privet, which I really like and has really proven itself to be hardy and growing very fast. It's also non-invasive, which is a plus. Let's talk about what's happening in front of the greenhouse and what's in the greenhouse. Alrighty, the sun has come out. So right off here to my left, I have my Easy Peel Clementine orange tree, and it looks like I have a singular fruit, which I'm okay with. I transplanted this into a bigger pot. I believe it was late winter, early summer, early spring, apologize. Moved it here because it doesn't have a matching friend, which it might in a few years, who knows? And that'll go out along the row between the in-grounds and the raised bed, much as I have the 2 lemon trees right here. So right next to them, I have a couple of different flowers, things I've never grown before. I have a cosmos, there's a balloon flower, there's a zinnia. Off to the side here, I have a tea tree, and one day that may go out along the box, the center aisle here. That got started from bare roots, so it seems to be doing okay-ish, hanging in there. Again, we'll have to wait and see. And I have a pot of some sort of red zinnia. This is a red skin daylily. And over here, looking awesome, is Bishop's Child or Bishop's Children dahlia mix. Beautiful, beautiful flowers. And I really like the dark foliage. I always like to have a couple of pots here right in front of the greenhouse. It just, I don't know, adds a little something. Right now inside the greenhouse, I have a couple of pots of peppers. And though they're in kind of shade right now, they catch a lot of morning light and then they catch a lot of afternoon light. And again, it does get quite warm in the greenhouse. So having them sitting on the floor, I think they get enough light because I don't see them really suffering for light, and they get a lot of heat. And I come in here and when it gets really warm, spray the floor, so it generates a lot of humidity inside. If I'm wrong about any of these things that I'm blathering on about, or if you have any comments, again, please feel free to leave those comments below. On top of the benches right now, I mostly just have garlic that I've harvested curing out, and I'll probably start processing it soon. It looks like it's pretty much ready to go. I'll cut off all the loose bits and whatnot. So let's start looking at the raised beds and wrap this tour up. So if you've been following the channel, you know I have a lot of metal raised beds. These are all these beds are Birdie's beds. They're purchased from Epic Gardening. None of that's sponsored. They're made in Australia. They're imported here to the US, which I think is better than having your beds made in China for reasons. So I'd rather support an Australian economy there. And they've worked out well. I do like the height and I like the size. These are they're smaller than a 4x8 bed, but that actually works out well because I can easily reach over in most instances, or I could walk around the bed. And again, the height makes it so I really don't have to be bending over. It also then provides less of an excuse not to weed, because if I walk by a bed and I see a weed right there, I can just pluck it right out and life is good. So again, the metal raised beds have numerous advantages. For me, they may not be for you, but for me, they work out well. Now, this bed has sunken down some, and I plan on putting my sweet potatoes into this bed, which I just received the other day. And so what I did was I added in a bunch of grass clippings, and they're rotting down very quickly because, again, heat, humidity, so the grass clippings just rot down. What I'll do is mix that in with the raised bed mix that I already had here. Then I'm going to put more raised bed mix right on top of that. It'll give me the depth and it'll give me the nutritional value that I'm looking for. It'll also help loosen up the soil a little bit. Raised bed mix isn't necessarily a dense mixture, but all this organic matter will help loosen that up just a little bit more, which I'm hoping will provide an excellent growing medium or substrate for the sweet potatoes. Over here in this bed, I have various tomatoes that my wife had bought, various seeds. She's got black cherry tomatoes, rainbow mixed cherry tomatoes, Mexican sour gherkin, and along the back we have more bottle gourd seeds. Last year we grew bottle gourds, and that was a fun thing to do. This year I plan on having them not only go along the fence, but I'm going to be putting up more fencing right here in the back corner, and I'll hopefully train them to grow up that, so we have a lot of bottle gourds. I have yet to see any growth from any of the seeds I've planted, but again, we've had some cooler days and we've had quite a bit of rain, so hopefully over the next few days with the sun coming out, it warms up the soil enough and all these seeds start popping and everything starts coming to life, which would be, again, super exciting. In this bed here, I just harvested a lot of garlic and have a little bit more to go, which will probably go this week, maybe next week. So, but it's going to get harvested very soon. Same thing with this bed. I have just a few left over in this bed. I'll be harvesting them up. This bed is sunken down a lot. So again, what I'll do is just turn around and add a bunch of wood chips, some grass clippings, mix it all in, throw in the raised bed mix on top of that and plant something up in that. Don't know what yet, but something on that one. This one, I'm not sure either. I was planning on doing beans, but I already have a bed of beans. Who knows? Maybe I'll do more beans. In this round bed back here, I have my basil, which is just taking off. I just planted these and pinched them back recently. They're taking off. So I'm thinking there's going to be some pesto in the near future. Behind it, I have parsley that's absolutely going mad. I'm going to have to harvest some of this too. Not sure how or what I'm going to do with my parsley. If you have any ideas or comments, please leave them below. Maybe I'll try freezing some of it. I'm not sure. I've also thought about drying it, but from my understanding is that dried parsley doesn't hold its flavor or last as long as something like maybe basil. I don't know. Again, leave those comments below. In front of it, I have another herb bed, and this one's got sage in it, and English thyme, and Greek oregano, and rosemary. And over in this bed here, I have my half runner beans. Now, there was a gentleman, I believe his name might have been Dave or something along those lines. If you're still watching this channel, thank you. And you were probably right. Even though they are half runner beans and not like a full runner or pole bean, I probably should have done some sort of trestling. The other thing I might have wanted to do was do a little thinning. The front of the bed, I believe, is Mountaineer half runner, and that every seed germinated, which is fantastic, but it's sort of a bit of an overgrown mess. Now, I do see a lot of flowers, so hopefully I have some beans here to taste in another, I don't know, 2 to 3 weeks maybe, who knows. And behind it I have state runner beans, and only like 3 plants came up, but those 3 plants alone are taking up quite a bit of space. So I think like right here I have maybe, let's say 9 plants, and it's just too much. It's too much. So but I've never grown them before, so I had no idea how they were going to react or behave. And again, there was a gentleman who left a comment saying I should build some sort of trellis, not a high trellis, but just a low one to help, I guess, keep the plants a little more separated and give the vines maybe something to cling on to as opposed to each other. But live and learn, live and learn. My neighbor whom I had gotten the seeds from said that I didn't need to trellis them at all. And maybe I don't. Maybe the key to success is spacing them out more. I'm not an expert at these things, but the plants are alive. They're growing, they're flowering. And again, hopefully in another few weeks, we get some beans and I decide whether I like the beans or not. If I don't like the beans, I'm not going to grow this again. But if the beans are absolutely delicious, then this will be a plant I grow again. And maybe next time, again, fewer plants in the space, maybe a little trellis grid work or something to help keep the plants a little more separated and supported. Let's look at my remaining beds here and wrap this tour up. In this first bed here, I have 4 tomato plants. Now I'm thinking to myself, I should probably have kept it to 3 because I'm thinking 4 is a little too close, or maybe taking that one, pushed it out. But either way, I have Early Girl, Better Boy, and I think that's the only 2 I have varieties have here. Oh no, there's Homestead. I believe that's what it's called. And I have some fire ants, which need to be exterminated. Don't worry, I don't use any hazardous chemicals. I have found this all-natural product thing online that has a bacteria which kills the fire ants. It's not foolproof and it takes a couple applications sometimes, but it's not going to be harmful to us or anything else that may wind up eating it. But enough about the fire ants. So I have these 4 tomato plants. They're all doing pretty well right now. I see quite a few flowers on them, which is great. On the outside of the bed over here, I have candy hybrid onions. And they seem to be rocking right now, doing great, really enjoying the wet weather. Around that, I have more basil because you can never have enough basil, right? Especially if you like pesto. I'm getting hungry thinking about it. So I have more basil. Plus, my understanding again is the basil and onions, from what I've Googled, are good companion plants to tomatoes and help either keep bugs away or whatever, or attract other beneficials, that kind of thing. Anything I can do to help my tomato plants and help my other plants grow happy and well together, that's what I'm all for. In this bed right here, I have a whole lot of Walla Walla onions. All of my onions were grown from seed, and then I pricked them out when they were getting quite large, and the true set of leaves came in after the seedling leaves and planted them in the ground, and now they're just huge, and they're doing quite well. And I'll probably be harvesting them, I don't know, maybe by the end of the month. I'm really looking forward to that. And next to that, at the end of the bed, I had some space. So I put down some lemon gem marigolds, and these are called Crouching Tiger zinnias. Fun and exciting. Again, I believe one or both deter certain pests and attract other beneficials, that kind of thing, or even act as bait to the bad bugs. So I'd rather sacrifice a marigold or a zinnia as opposed to my tomatoes. Back here I have another bed of beans. These are Bush Lake 47 beans, and at the end I have some more marigolds which I've just planted. Now I just planted these the other day, so nothing's come up yet, but I'm sure again with the sun and the warmer weather, all this will be popping off probably within the next week or so, and that'll again be super exciting. I'm really looking forward to my bush beans. Really like bush beans. This bed here, I have some dill growing. The dill for me has been really slow, and again, I've never really grown dill successfully or that much before. It's been really slow. You know, we'll see what they do, and if I can use the dill this year in some sort of cooking, all the better. And then next to that, filling out the rest of the bed, these are red rock onions, and these are also doing pretty well. I'm pretty excited about that. So all my onions doing well. That's a huge plus, and it has probably something to do with the cooler, wetter spring we've had. So big pluses there. Let's talk about what I got growing behind me. Okay, so I have 2 beds here, obviously, and this trellis framework. Now last year I had loofah growing on this framework, and it was on the lower wooden beds. I've since removed those beds, replaced them with the metal beds, and I put this framework up into the bed. And it's actually worked out quite well because I no longer bump my head. I didn't grow any loofah this year, but I do have rattlesnake pole bean. And a little further behind here, I have cucumbers. I believe they're green finger cucumbers. On this side, I'm going to have, I still have carrots, which I have to start harvesting. But on this side over here, I have two different climbers. I have, what do we have here? We have Armenian yard long. Now this is a variety, again, my wife picked up. She thought it looked really cool. I've never grown Armenian yard long. It kind of looks like a pale loofah, and apparently it grows up to 36 inches long. So hopefully that'll grow right up here, grow down, and I'll be bumping my head into it during the summertime. And on this side, I have green apple cucumbers. Again, a variety I've never grown before. They are smaller, and I think they're more apple-ish. They look apple-ish. They're not the traditional long green cucumbers. Strange variety my wife picked up. I believe she got both these at Baker Creek Seeds. They have a lot of strange and heirloom varieties, but either way, I've got planted on both sides. They are just coming up now. I'm going to wait to see which seedlings look the strongest, and then I'll thin them out because I only want 1 or 2 plants per side. I don't want 3 on each side, so that's 6 plants would be just too much for this trellis system. When I harvest the carrots out, I don't know what I'm going to plant on that side, so that's going to be a full sun. I'll have to think about it. And on the backs, on the other side of this bed, I have radish, chamomile, and I have some more marigolds. Let's look at the last 2 beds. Okay, so last 2 beds here. In this one over here, I have German Butterball and Yukon Gold potatoes. These potatoes also are looking like they're done. I know the German Butterball has flowered and been done for a week or more. So I will probably be pulling both of these probably next week. And again, if you want to see me harvest all my potatoes, leave a comment below and I'll do a whole video on harvesting potatoes and we'll see what kind of results I get. Bed versus bags, different varieties, and we'll see where we're at. This bed over here, this was my flower seed bed. And basically, instead of taking up space in the greenhouse with trays and pots and space on the tables, which are absolutely full, which I still need to empty off, I decided to grow some seeds here in this bed. And what I did was just made little sections, and I've already harvested penstemons from here. I've harvested some daisies from here. I've harvested a few other plants, and what I do is I dig them up and then I move out into the garden someplace. I have to do that now with the larkspur, which looks like it's ready to go, the English daisy, and then the Rudbeckia prairie sun here, which is really, really full. Looks like it's starting to put buds on. So I will definitely have to turn around and get that into the ground soon. Once that's done, I'm thinking I'm gonna fill this bed, I'll top it off again, and then what I'll do is I'll replant seeds now. And yes, I know we're gonna be getting into the summer with the hotter temperatures, but I did this last year where I planted numerous varieties of plants and they were basically ready to go into the ground, but it was a little later in the year. So what I did was I took them up. Some of them there was a larkspur, there were some snapdragons, there was a couple other things, but I dug them up, put them into pots, put them in the greenhouse for the winter. Come the springtime, once the last danger of frost is past, out into the flower garden they went. So I didn't have to wait for them to start growing up. I could get them out there and be rocking and rolling. So I think I'll do the same thing again this year. I'll put some in, but with the summer heat, if you keep them watered, I found that they grow pretty well. And again, I'm not taking up space on the potting bench, can't use the greenhouse, so I have 1 bed here dedicated to flower seeds, different plants I can grow right on here into the bed. So that's what I have going on in the veg garden. This is what I have happening. I'm seeing a lot of successes. I'm seeing some questionable stuff. Things are growing quite well. If you guys want, definitely leave a comment below. I will do this again in the summertime and we can see where we're at with the various plants, because again, some of the stuff hasn't come up quite yet, but we're a couple of weeks away from summer and I think that we're getting beyond a lot of the clouds and we're going to start getting a lot more warmer temperatures. So I think a lot of stuff is really going to start bounding and just taking off like nobody's business. Hopefully in the summertime, there's gonna be a lot more to show and to talk about, and maybe even some harvesting going on with various plants. All right, so that's gonna be about it for today. I hope you guys enjoyed the veg garden tour. If you have any comments or questions, again, please leave them below. I'm open to hearing everybody's opinion and thoughts and advice, etc., etc. If you want, please check out all the links below. I have links to where you can get a cool t-shirt like this. And of course, all my social media links. So I think that's about it for today. I'm going to catch you guys on the next one. Bye-bye.